Welcome to Brainish English Stories.
The fifth race in the open competition had just finished. Lulu had won, and the people in the big seating area and around the track were shouting loudly with excitement. Through the loud noise, a woman's voice cried out clearly, "Oh no, I dropped my scorecard." A man in front of her turned around. "I have an extra scorecard, ma'am. Would you like it?" Her small hand, covered in fancy gloves, quickly grabbed it before she looked up at his face. When their eyes met, both of them were shocked. The man's face turned very pale, and the woman's face turned dark red. "You?" she said, her voice shaking. The man gave a cold, serious smile she remembered and disliked. "You're not happy to see me," he said calmly. "But I didn't expect you to be. I didn't come here to bother you. This meeting is as much of a surprise to me as it is to you. I had no idea that for the past 30 minutes I've been standing next to my..." She cut him off with a firm wave of her hand. Still holding the scorecard tightly, she turned halfway away from him. He smiled again, this time with a slight look of contempt, and looked back at the racetrack. None of the people nearby noticed the brief moment between them. Everyone's eyes were on the track, which was being cleared for the next race. The horses from the open competition were being led away with blankets over them. The crowd cheered loudly for Lulu as she passed by, looking strange under the blanket. The supporters of Mascot, the other popular horse, looked unhappy. The woman did not notice any of the cheering or the horses on the track. She was small, very pretty, still young, and dressed in a way that made her stand out. She secretly looked at the man's face from the side. He looked older than when she had last seen him. There were some silver strands in his neatly trimmed dark hair and short, pointed beard. But his calm face and serious gray eyes had not changed much. She wondered if he had ever cared about her at all. They had not seen each other for 5 years. She closed her eyes and remembered the past. It all came back very clearly. She had been only 18 when they got married. She was a cheerful, lively girl and very beautiful. He was much older than her and a quiet, serious man who loved to study. Her friends had been surprised that she married him. Sometimes she was surprised too. But she had loved him, or at least she thought she had. Their marriage had not been a happy one. She loved parties and being with people, while he wanted peace and quiet. She was quick to act and easily upset, but he was slow and serious. Their strong personalities clashed. After 2 years of a life they both found unbearable, they separated quietly, without any public drama. She had wanted a divorce, but he refused. So she took her own money and went back to her life. In the 5 years since then, she had worked hard to forget everything about him. No one knew if she was happy or not. Her social world was kind to her, and she lived a cheerful and respectable life. But now, she wished she hadn't come to the horse races. Seeing him again was so frustrating. She opened her eyes tiredly. The dusty track, the running horses, the bright dresses of the women, the clear blue sky, the warm September sun, and the purple hills in the distance all blended into one bright scene that made her head hurt. She looked at the tall man beside her. He was focused on the racetrack and not looking at her. She wondered why he had come to the races. He didn't usually enjoy things like this. It seemed their unexpected meeting had not bothered him at all. This made her think he didn't care. She sighed quietly and closed her eyes again. When the race ended, he turned to her. "May I ask how you have been since we last met? You look very well. Are you tired of the fun and excitement of your social world yet?" His words made her angry at him and at herself. Where had her calm, confident manners gone? She felt weak and emotional. What if she started crying in front of everyone, in front of his cold and critical gray eyes? She almost hated him. No, why would I be tired of it? I have enjoyed it very much. And I have been well, very well. And you? He carefully wrote down the race results before answering her. I am still the same, a man who loves books and quiet. My life is always calm and peaceful. I never liked excitement, as you know. I came here for a sale of some rare books, and a friend convinced me to come to the races. I must say, I find it more interesting than I expected, but I cannot stay until the end. I will leave as soon as the free-for-all race is over, maybe even before. I place my bet on Mascot. What about you? Lulu, she answered quickly. Her tone almost sounded stubborn. It felt so strange and fake to talk like this, like they were just two strangers having a casual chat. She belongs to a friend of mine, so of course I am interested. Lulu and Mascot are tied now. Each has won 2 races. The next race will decide the winner. It is a good day for the races. Excuse me. He leaned over and picked a small piece of paper off her gray coat. She felt a little shiver go through her. You're cold. This stand is windy. I am not cold at all, thank you. What race is this? Oh, the 3-minute one. She leaned forward as if she was very interested in watching the race results. But she was breathing heavily and tears filled her eyes. She bit her lips hard and stared at the track until the tears disappeared. He spoke again in a quiet, calm voice. This is a strange meeting, isn't it? It feels a bit like something from a romance story. By the way, do you still read as many novels as before? She thought there was a teasing tone in his voice. She remembered how much he used to criticize her love for novels, calling it silly. His words felt personal, and it made her angry. What gave him the right to ask such a question? Almost as many, she answered in a light, careless tone. I was very unfair to you, wasn't I? He said after a moment. You thought so, and you were right. Are you happier now since you left me? Yes, she said firmly, looking straight into his eyes. And you don't regret it? He leaned closer to her. His sleeve brushed lightly against her shoulder. There was something in his expression that stopped her from saying the answer she had in mind. I didn't say that, she whispered softly. There was a loud cheer from the crowd. The free-for-all horses were coming out for the 6th race. She turned her attention to them. The scoring began, but it seemed to go on forever. She was tired of everything. It didn't matter to her at all whether Lulu or Mascot won. What did matter? Had she truly been happy with the life she had chosen instead of love? He had loved her once, and in the beginning, they had been happy together. She had never admitted, even to herself, "I am sorry." But now, suddenly, she felt his hand gently touch her shoulder. She looked up, and their eyes met. He bent down and spoke in a soft voice. "Will you come back to me?" "I don't know," she whispered, her voice shaky, almost as if she was caught in a dream. "We were both at fault," he said. "But I made the bigger mistakes. I was too strict with you. I should have been more understanding. We are both wiser now. Come back to me, my wife." His voice was calm, and his face showed no emotion. She wanted to shout no with all her heart, but his slender hand on her shoulder was trembling, and she realized he was holding back deep feelings. He truly did care. Suddenly, a wild idea popped into her mind. She stood up quickly. "Look," she cried. "The race is starting now. This one will probably decide the winner. If Lulu wins, I will not go back to you. If Mascot wins, I will. That is my decision." He turned even paler, but gave a small nod. He knew from bitter experience how stubborn she could be. When she made a decision, no matter how strange, she stuck to it. She leaned forward, holding her breath. The crowd became silent, everyone's eyes fixed on the track. Lulu and Mascot were side by side, both running incredibly well. Halfway through the race, Lulu moved slightly ahead, just by half a neck. Her supporters screamed with joy, but the woman dropped her head into her hands and couldn't watch anymore. The man next to her, his face pale and his lips tight, stared at the track without looking away. Slowly, Mascot started to catch up, little by little. They entered the final stretch of the race. The two horses were neck and neck again. The crowd roared, then went silent, then erupted into cheers, shouts, and clapping. Mascot had won the race. In the front row, the woman stood up. She looked shaken, her body trembling like a leaf in the wind. She fixed her red hat and adjusted her veil with unsteady hands. There was a smile on her lips and tears in her eyes. No one noticed her. The man beside her calmly took her hand and placed it through his arm, as if it belonged there. Together, they walked out of the grandstand.